2023. Let's start with our land acknowledgement. On April 3rd, 2023, we acknowledge that this sacred land on which Smiths Falls is now located has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We are grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We are also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smiths Falls. We are mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all of our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, being mindful of generations to come. And I don't think I told you who I was. I'm Steve Robinson, and I will be the chair tonight. Okay, before we get started, I just wanted to take one moment. I'd like to apologize to you guys for my comments last week regarding the Confederation Bridge crossing. I know that it's a dead issue, and it won't happen again. And I will be supporting the staff recommendation to move ahead. So now that I've got that off my chest, let's get down to some new business. All right, so I don't believe there's any amendments to the agenda. And do we have any disclosure of monetary interest? Seeing none, okay. We have no delegation and no adoption of minutes. And there's no CAO or director's reports tonight. No correspondence items. So that brings us to section 7, in-camera issues. So 7.1, we have a recommended motion that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls, as provided in section 239 2E of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended, move into a closed meeting at 5:03 p.m. to discuss a litigation matter. Can I have a mover? Councillor Brennan, and seconded by Councillor Quinn. All in favor? Let's go. Great. Okay, welcome back. We were in a litigation meeting in camera, and staff were directed or given direction on this matter. So that's what that was about. So next, we're going to be moving on to priority issues. And 8.1 is a draft strategic plan report, and that'll be with CAO Morse. CAO Morse.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So I'm delighted to present to you this evening the product of our work since January 11th, when council got together with a few senior staff, and we talked about what we're going to do for the next 4 years. And so from that session, we left the meeting with 6 draft strategic priorities for this term of council. We also talked about the vision statement. We made a few changes to it, and then reconfirm the guiding principles from the previous strategic plan. So since that time, we've engaged with several groups. The first one was on February 23rd. We assembled a group of community stakeholders. We had 16 stakeholders. To give you an idea, we had representatives from the Chamber of Commerce, the DBA, REAL, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Station Theatre, Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario, Service Club, and so on. Real estate sector were there. We had a couple of developers, so it was a good cross section of the business and social sector within Smiths Falls. So we had a really good discussion that day. We walked through the draft priorities and initiatives and the vision. And from that, there was a lot of coalescing, I would say, around the priorities. There was a lot of support for those 6 priorities. We talked a little bit about some of the initiatives, and again, there was general support for that. But what came out of that discussion really was what's missing. We asked the question, what's missing from the draft plan? So we did get some feedback on that. It is attached to your report as Appendix D. That was the community stakeholder. So I'm sure everyone has had a look at that, but essentially we looked at all the things that the group felt were missing and then prioritized them. So on the final page of Appendix D, you'll see that there were a couple of things that rose to the surface with that group. Job creation was far and away the most important amongst this group. There was some discussion about reinstating the EDAC or some other forum for the business community to get together. The second prioritized item was accessibility. And the third was recreation programming. They felt that that was missing. So we have parks and trails, but the discussion revolved around recreation programming specifically. So that was those were the take homes from that session. But I would summarize it by saying there was a lot of support for the priorities that you had chosen. So from there, we also went out to the public through our public engagement portal on our website, and had really good response through that mechanism. In fact, I think we had 28 or over 30, sorry, responses. And so we have a report. It's attached as Appendix B. So what's important there, we asked people if they agreed with the priorities. 68% of respondents did agree with the priorities. That's encouraging. We asked them to rank them, and interestingly, redeveloping the waterfront and downtown became the top priority in the minds of those that participated. So I think that's insightful information. We talked about what's missing. There were a lot of comments. I would characterize them as activities. People were looking for things to do in Smiths Falls other than, you know, the traditional hockey rink and the theater. So I think that's important. Parks and Recreation rose to the surface as something that that people felt was important and perhaps not fully represented in the draft plan. There were a lot of opportunities. Finding a tenant for the Hershey plant was one. Looking at other opportunities revolving around the Rideau Canal, which of course we've been involved in a lot of interactions with Parks Canada. But again, that same theme that just having more things to do in town was something that people felt was important. One of the threats that was identified was our roads are getting worse. So I think you've addressed that through infrastructure investments as one of our priorities. But in the end, I think there was a lot of support for the direction that we're going. And I would say the other kind of theme that rose to the surface, there were a lot of operational items that came up that I think we can address, you know, through day-to-day operations as opposed to necessarily within the strategic plan. So it was all good input, but I think by and large it supports the draft that council produced. I didn't see anything in the public consultation that would alter the 6 priorities, to summarize. So from there, we also had a session with staff. We got staff together, and that was more focused really on talking about the priorities, talking about the 22 initiatives that were identified, and understanding how we would operationalize those. So we had some really good thoughts on ways to operationalize and action each of the 6 priorities. So we're putting that information together. We'll bring that back at a future date, but we felt it was first important to confirm the priorities and either move forward with the 6 that you have, take some away, add some, whatever you prefer, and then we'll drill deeper and come back with a more fulsome plan with all of the tasks that we need to undertake, timelines to complete them, a lead person to run with it, and a budget allocation for each of those items. So we're taking a step-by-step approach, and we felt the next logical one was to confirm. So the 6 priorities, just to recap, were transportation networks, housing, redeveloping the waterfront and downtown, infrastructure renewal, new business attraction, and parks and trails. So if we look at the comments we received, I believe most of them fall or could fall within those 6 priorities. That would be my summary. The other thing that we want to get some feedback from council on is during the January 11th session, we talked about the vision statement, and the previous plan had a total of 10 statements under the vision. We agreed to remove a couple, and a couple were identified but were left somewhat stranded to the extent we didn't get clear direction whether they should be in the plan, and if they should be in the plan, where should they be? So I would refer you to page 3 of the staff report, top of the page. So there were 3 things that came up that we need to find a home for. First is organizational sustainability, investing in our people. Second was environmental sustainability and climate adaptation. We talked a lot about that, but interestingly, neither of those appeared in one of the priorities. And the third one was helping marginalized people out of poverty. So I don't think any of those necessarily fit within one of the priorities, but I do believe each of them could be embedded in the plan in some fashion, either through an initiative or through addition to the vision statement. So I'm looking for, we staff are looking for feedback on those items, whether they're things that we should embed somewhere in the plan, and how you would like us to do that. So at this point, perhaps I'll just pause, and that's a lot of information. I appreciate that we've gathered, but by and large, I would suggest in general terms, it's all supportive of the draft that you produced. So, Mr. Chair, I'll pause there.
Thank you. Any discussion? Mayor Panko?
Yeah, thank you, Malcolm. Related to your first question, I guess, related to the 3 additional potential vision statements and where they fit. I would see them all fitting within the vision of the plan. I mean, certainly organizational sustainability and investing in our people. We're in an era with a lot of people retiring from the workforce. Workforce development is clearly important. Trying to attract and retain the best possible staff. We are a human resources driven organization. And in order to provide the value we need for our community, we need to make sure that we have the best people in place. And so I certainly support that. Environmental sustainability, climate adaptation, I would say, also critically important as an overarching statement. I believe we should be applying a climate lens to every decision we make. So environmental sustainability, adapting to the changing climate, and as well, I guess, addressing the impacts of climate change. And I guess a third one, helping marginalized people out of poverty. I think it's much broader and it's much more encompassing, but I think it's important to be part of our vision in some capacity. The health and wellness of our community is dependent on moving people out of poverty and helping. We don't do that alone, obviously. Social service agencies, the education system, the health, the medical system will all be part of that. I think it's important to make that statement, and the long-term sustainability of our community and the health of our community is so much better if we can move marginalized people out of poverty. And then I guess we didn't talk about Dr. Lee's, our medical officer health, Dr. Lee's letter. And I read it with incredible interest, and it's very clear that she took great interest in our draft strategic plan and provided some incredible feedback. And I didn't have a chance to check all the references, but I did check some of it, and it's very meaningful feedback. I think that should be accommodated to some extent within our plan, and it's too much to probably discuss here tonight. But I would like to provide staff with, I guess, the direction to review that letter in detail and pull out the most pertinent points and to accommodate within our plan. Other than that, I think our main priorities, the six key priorities, I agree with, and just enhancing the vision statement.
Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I echo a lot of what the mayor said. I was so happy to see the health unit taking such care to weigh in on our draft strategic plan, and also that other key partners were included. So I trust that staff can really dig into this to make sure either in the strategic plan, final wording, or in the operational plan, these points are captured. I agree that the 3 additional vision statement pieces are critical, so I'd like those included, and I think they belong in the vision statement. I agree with the 6 priorities. A small note under transportation, I really would encourage us to move the development of a central trail hub into its own priority line. This is a priority that's carried over from last term, and we're hearing that in the feedback process as well. So just wanted to bring that up. And then on your point, CAO Morris, about recreation being a reoccurring theme, we have a new director of community services in place, and perhaps there's an opportunity to see if there's some room in our operational plan for starting to address this as we move forward. So those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, well, is everyone generally supportive of the what's been mentioned so far? I personally agree with everything that's been said. So can we have some sort of indication whether you would like staff to move forward? All right. So CAO Morris, have you got enough direction to proceed?
We certainly do. Yes. Thank you very much. And So the next time you see this, it will be in the dashboard format that we've used in the past. We want to produce a very concise document that's easy to read and easy to understand and articulates the things that we're going to focus on and give priority to. So I would expect we will bring that back in early May.
Councillor McKenna.
So I obviously support the direction council's taken, and thanks CEO Morse. Do you feel that this plan leaves you a little more room for the unexpected that we're going to see in the next 4 years, that maybe a little less intense than the previous 4-year plan? Does it give you a little capacity to manage those surprises that we're going to come?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I think it's aspirational, but it's also realistic, and I think that's the two ingredients of a strategic plan. Something that, you know, you swing for the fence, but you want to make sure you hit the ball. And I think this plan, the way it's drafted, gives us both of those. Not expecting another worldwide pandemic in the next 4 years, so I'm hopeful we can now focus for the next 4 years on these big ticket items that council has identified. So I think in the end we'll probably end up with probably between 20 and 25 initiatives, where the last plan had 41 of them. So I have a greater comfort level with the plan as drafted at this point.
Thank you. Anything else? Okay, well, you've got your direction, so we can move on to priority issue 8.2. It's the year in review 2022 report with Manager Crowder. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My report tonight is short and sweet. It's to present the annual year in review for 2022 to council and committee. This is a document that's produced annually by the municipality to provide municipal activities, achievements, accomplishments, and an overview of departmental activities within the given year. Some of the highlights include this year, the election of new council, the completion of the Beckwith Street reconstruction project, adoption of our new CIP, adoption of the new zoning bylaw, adoption of our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and a number of other plans and priorities that have been accomplished. It also helps with council and the community to understand the strategic priorities, as well as our progress in completing the strategic priorities over the 4 years of council.
Well, thank you.
So we will have some actual printed copies for council and the community. We're just going to do a short run, but the document will also be available on the town's website for public consumption.
Thanks. Any discussion? Councillor Brennan? No? Okay. Well, thank you, Manager Crowder, for giving us an overview of the activities and achievements that were accomplished in 2022. So, if there's nothing else, we can move on to 8.3. Next Generation 911 agreement with Owen Sound report with Chief Cheeseborough. Go ahead,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My recommendation this evening is that Council of the Corporation Town of Smiths Falls approves the execution of an agreement with Owen Sound Police Services to host the Next Generation 911. What I will say at the onset is this report, this is the third component to the report that was previously presented concerning sole sourcing and to accept the provincial grant money. So I'll quickly skim through the background as it is identical. It was the CRTC that mandated the Next Generation 911, which will provide enhanced services to all Canadians. That's through texting, pictures, imaging, a number of items that were not contained in the enhanced 911 service. So this will provide a broader spectrum for citizens to use in the event of an emergency. As previously mentioned, there was $208 million of grant money allocated that PSAPs, primary and secondary services, could apply for. We were successful in our application along with Smith Falls Police. We received $560,000 in our grant or our grant application. Through the process of the grant application, we explored a number of areas to host the next generation 911 system within our local surrounding jurisdictions. There was 5 jurisdictions at the time. Unfortunately, none of those jurisdictions, including Smith Falls, was able to take on the capacity for hosting the system and or had the space or the services to support that initiative. We reached out to Owen Sound, the Owen Sound Police Services. They provide the hosting for a number of municipalities currently. And at that time, we were given a quick number off the top of their head prior to looking into the details. Upon looking into the details, Owen Sound proposed a cost of $436,000 for a 5-year contract. And that's $436,000 for police and $436,000 for fire. I wasn't satisfied, nor was the chief of police at that time. We removed it from the last report. The recommendation to council was that we approach Owen Sound Police Services and try to renegotiate the 5-year term. Following that meeting, we did meet with the chief of police from Owen Sound, and we were able to negotiate a lower number for the 5-year service. We brought it down from 436 down to 368,000. Certainly a cost saving of $68,000, which works out to be $13,000, just over $13,000 a year for the 5-year term. This additional money that we're not spending on the hosting solution will go into additional equipment and the renovation of any space that is required for the equipment that we currently have. The 5-year contract is to take place upon our onboarding date, which will be set out by Bell Canada. Owen Sound will be working with Bell to confirm an onboarding date for Smith Falls Police and Smith Falls Fire. We fully expect that that is going to be at some point in time in 2024. In order to complete the requirements for the grant funding, we had to secure some equipment prior to March 31st. This agreement will fall into that category as we had predetermined that within our grant application. All other items that we will be acquiring, both police and fire, will be in our reporting mechanism that's submitted to the province by the end of July of this year. It is our anticipation that for any items, or any services, any equipment that we do not acquire in round 1, we'll be submitting a second application in round 2 and a subsequent application in round 3 of the funding to ensure that we will have the funds in place to cover the municipality for the next 5 years, which will have no reflection on the current tax base or taxpayers. Owen Sound Police Services and hosting this will be providing 24/7 IT support. They will also be hosting all the major infrastructure equipment. They will be conducting the training for our staff, both police and fire. They will be doing the connections once the onboarding date has been determined. And they will also be assisting us with our new radio system to ensure that the compatibility with the radio system is going to fall in line with the next generation 911 system. So therefore, my recommendation tonight is an option 1 that Council, the Corporation of Town of Smith Falls receive and approve the recommendation to execute an agreement with Owen Sound Police to host the next generation 911 service. Option 2 is that the Council, Corporation, Town of Smith Falls not proceed with option 1 and wait and submit in round 2 and 3 for the necessary funding. Unfortunately, this recommendation I do not support as the methodology for round 1 was an open concept. There was no methodology in providing the grant funding. However, in round 2, it's more stringent. We would have to submit quotations, do more legwork in hopes and anticipation that we would receive the funding. Therefore, I think we're, as in the first report, we're kind of caught in the middle. if we do something or if we don't do something. And I think at this point in time, we have the funding secured. And this is an opportunity to use that funding to support the hosting the Next Generation 911. That is my report, Mr. Chairman. I am certainly open for questions.
Thank you, Chief. I'd just like to congratulate you on your negotiating skills. Councillor McKenna.
Thanks, Chief. And I support your recommendation, option one. And I too, like Chair Robinson, are pleased with the savings. My question, and I know this is a summary of the, I didn't really want to see the proposed agreement in detail. And this is a high level summary, but it seems to focus on hardware, training, equipment. What I'm wondering is there anything in the agreement that talks about a data sharing agreement? There's going to be a lot of data collected, and who will actually own it? So at the end of year one, if we wanted to run some reports, some statistics, will we have ready and easy access at all times to run service utilization reports, etc.? The data here for me is key, that what we'll learn from this. So if we have to go through a little bit of a rigmarole to get that data, is that covered anywhere in the agreement?
Through the chair, that's an excellent question. Any data that is contained within the Next Generation 911 system that is filtered through our dispatching center is the property of the town of Smith Falls. We will have access to that data at any time of the day or night. And to augment that with the new radio system tied in with this Next Generation hosting solution, we will be able to generate a variety of different reports, whether they're bar graphs, pie charts, breakdown by time, breakdown by day, breakdown by month. So it's a wholesome package that we will be able to access any information that is required at any given point in time.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Brennan.
Yeah, I think this is exciting and fantastic. You get a grant on March 3rd, and you get it signed up by the end of the month. So that's great news. And the real winner is our citizens, who are going to get a much enhanced 911 service with provide more safety, and it probably save lives. So good for you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Any other comment? All right, so everybody in favor of moving that forward? Okay, looks like we've got a majority. So we will move that forward, Chief.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right. And the last priority issue is a land need study update report from Senior Planner Grant Key.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening, committee. Staff are pleased to bring forward an update on the land need study, which was commissioned by the town last year, and we're seeking to confirm council's directions on the next steps. The land need study is a key foundational piece that helps inform us how we want to see development unfold in the coming years by forecasting how much development we expect to see. Under provincial policy, our official plan sets out various land use designations as well as an urban settlement area boundary, which represents greenfield land where new development is going to occur. Our current official plan, which was approved in 2014 and came into effect 2 years later, identifies the land where all development through to 2034 is expected to go. However, since 2014, most of that land has already either been developed or allocated for development through various subdivision approvals, leaving not a whole lot left for new development. The 2014 plan forecasted that we would see about 440 housing starts between then and 2034, for a total of about 22 a year, give or take. However, we've actually issued permits for over 750 units since that time, and most of which are in the last couple of years. Based on that, it stood to reason that we needed to begin planning long before 2034 what our future needs are going to be and where the town should grow and expand to meet those needs. Under provincial planning policy, we can't expand our urban settlement area boundary unless a comprehensive review of the official plan is undertaken to project land needs, growth patterns, and servicing needs, as well as other things. Firstly, to confirm the need to expand, and secondly, to allow us to determine where. Settlement area boundaries need to be carefully planned in order to ensure that growth happens in an orderly manner and follows the logical extension of services so that it's financially sustainable for us in the long term. Two large areas of land within the municipal boundaries of the town, for example, are classified as development reserves, meaning that they can be opened up for development, but only when a need is defined and approved through a long-range planning exercise. The land need study is the first step in this exercise, and we've been working with Dillon Consultants on that process since last year. On March 23rd, a virtual public information session was attended by several members of the public, including developers, where the consultants presented their draft report and findings. The draft report indicated that the town does not have enough urban service lands within our current settlement area boundary to accommodate the next 25 years of anticipated residential or industrial development. And this is based on a forecast of about 1,380 new residential units, corresponding to a roughly 35% population increase of the town compared to the 2021 census figures. And of course, the 2021 census figures are the most recent that we have. If these figures are accepted by council, then they would form part of the basis by which we would extend our settlement area boundary to accommodate the next 25 years of development. The draft report included a memorandum where the consultants suggested that the reduction in the workforce at Canopy, while difficult and challenging, would not substantially impact the 25-year forecast. The land needs figures that are referenced in the report are in draft, and the consultants are considering feedback from the public before they come back and present their finalized land needs report to council, where council will have the opportunity to discuss the projections and the forecast. At that point, council will be given the opportunity to adopt and approve the long-range population, housing, and employment forecasts, as well as the long-range residential and non-residential land needs. That would lock in the key planning piece that would enable us to focus the future official plan update on determining where the specific location and phasing in of growth. The official plan that we adopted in 2014 is a good long-range planning document that has served us well and provided a strong guide to assist us on the unprecedented development we've seen in recent years. That being said, we have undertaken some master plans and studies in recent years, such as an active transportation master plan, our first parks and recreation master plan, and a retail market analysis. All of those reports contain helpful and important recommendations, some of which should be enshrined in official plan policy in order to really take effect. We've also seen enough from the draft land need study that points to the need to update the official plan to accommodate future growth. Before we can actually amend the official plan, there's of course there's a long process to be undertaken. But before we start, the Planning Act also requires that the town hosts a minimum of one public meeting to discuss the revisions that may be required. And certainly more public meetings would happen throughout the process. In discussion and consultation with Dillon, we're recommending that this public open house occurs on the same evening in which the land need study is brought forward to council. This will allow us to take an opportunity to take a harmonized approach to initiating the long-range planning process and also have a very preliminary engagement with key stakeholders and allow those with an interest in the planning process to come forward earlier. Another benefit to initiating that process at this stage is that it allows us to get started on the path sooner. So that public meeting, we would not be presenting policies for the public review. We'd be just looking at getting feedback on what's important to the community, and that would help guide the next steps that we want to take. The Planning Act requires 30 days notice before this public meeting, so pending scheduling and availability, we can have the public meeting in early May. With all of this in mind, staff are bringing forward a two-part recommendation this evening. The first part of that recommendation is that council receives this update on the land need study for information. The second part is that council directs staff to give notice under section 26(3)(b) of the Planning Act to signal council's intent to update the official plan. The giving of this notice does not compel council to adopt the land need study's findings as presented, nor commit us to deciding how the OP update should be done. There's many ways in which we can proceed, and the various options will be explored with council. However, at a high level, staff are of the view that we've reached the stage of our development where an update is warranted, and it is a good time to start this process, especially as the land need study is reaching its conclusion. Once council's intent to update the OP is confirmed either now or at some later point, and once we've heard from the public what they would like to see in a new or updated OP, staff will bring forward a more robust suite of options and recommendations to get started. I think it's also important to highlight that planning documents to some extent are living documents, and no decision that council makes tonight, next month, or in the coming years is inflexible. Long-range forecasting in increments of 25 years is difficult from this far out. As we all know, there's factors beyond any of our control that can change things. But what we do now is forecast what we'll need in 25 years, which allows us to plan. However, the planning system still requires us to review where we're at every 5 years to confirm that the long-range plan is still valid, or if we need to change direction. So with that, I'll pause, Mr. Chair, and I'll welcome any questions or comments from council.
Thank you. Any discussion? Councillor McKenna.
I thought it was going to be quiet tonight, Mr. Chair, but I can't help myself. Thank you, Mr. Grenke. I do support your recommendation. My question is around the $90,000. It said to complete the land use study. I thought we would have that 99% completed, or I thought that. Maybe I'm wrong. And if so, how far will the 90 take us on the journey in the official plan? You mentioned the next steps. I guess I'm wondering what's that? How far will it take us?
Mr. Grenke.
Through you, Mr. Chair. Yes, the $90,000 includes the land need study. Some of that work was done last year. I don't know exactly at this point where we're at for that, but that's certainly that the $90,000, the land need study doesn't come close to that $90,000. So that is a catch-all budgetary figure to cover the next level of work. And typically an official plan update the cost of that can vary substantially based on the scope that we decide we need to undertake and the consultants that we hire to do it. So the money that we have budgeted, I think is helpful for certainly to cover the work that will be done this year. But some of the decisions that council will be asked to make in the coming months will relate to how you want to proceed with the official plan and what we some of those procedural steps that can be taken that will help us define what should be done what can be done in-house and what elements of it can be done would need to be done by a consultant. It's our expectation certainly that we would be looking to issue an RFP, but the scope of that will be refined in consultation with council as well as with senior management once we've identified what it is that we'd like to achieve.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, just one more. So, but you've also said, and you've also told us that we're not starting from scratch. With the OP, you've done a number of important studies over the last year or so that inform the direction forward. So some of that work, including the land study, is a foundation document for doing the official plan. So thank you for doing that. And again, I support your recommendation.
Anybody else? Mayor Panko.
Yeah, thanks, Carl. And I found the land need study so informative, and it really, I think, shows how the town has evolved and grown in recent years, and the fact that 750 home starts over since the official plan came out, far greater than what was even anticipated by 2034. And then look, the numbers going forward. I mean, it's even though we're seeing, I think, some pause in a new development beyond what's already been approved right now, simply because of where interest rates are. I think we're seeing nationally a slowdown in home starts, but with what's underway right now, we're well positioned to move forward. But to your point, the land need study indicates we need to make that amendment to the official plan in order to ensure that we're going to have the lands we need going beyond the current supply. So my full support.
Anyone else? So everybody in favor of moving this forward? Okay. So have you got enough direction to go ahead?
I do, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. Next on the agenda is adjournment. So I have a recommended motion that the committee adjourn its proceedings at 6:28 p.m. and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting. Can I move her? Councillor Brennan and seconded by Councillor McGuire. So it's carried. So we'll start the council meeting in a few minutes.
So if everybody has their agenda, if we could just review the movers and seconders very quickly.
Oh, where'd Jay go? Jay's up for adoption in minutes, but we'll skip him until he's back.
Okay, so for bylaws, I have the first bylaw regarding the amendment to the code of conduct moved by Councillor McKenna.
I need a seconder.
I'll take it.
Councillor Robinson, thank you.
All right, for the next 7.2, moved by Councillor McGuire. And this is regarding the court security and prisoner transportation program funding that we received. Dawn? 7.3 is the agreement that Chief Cheeseborough just spoke about, the agreement with Owen Sound for the Next Generation 911. Moved by Jay, seconded by Jennifer. Councillor Miller, my apologies. 7.4 is the exclusivity agreement with Samir Group of Companies for the extension, and we've got moved by Councillor Miller. Seconded by Councillor Quinn. Miscellaneous motions. The first is the location of the new pedestrian bridge. I have moved by Councillor Miller. If I could have a seconder. Councillor Robinson. 8.2, increasing insurance premiums, moved by S. Robinson. If I could have a seconder for that one.
Councillor Quinn said she'd do it.
Oh, that's right. You did tell me that. My apologies. If we could go back to adoption of minutes now that Councillor Brennan is here, if we could have a seconder for that one. Jennifer, Councillor Miller. And last but not least, the adjournment is with Councillor Robinson.
And Councillor Quinn said she'd second that too.
Perfect. All right. Hope you're on mute, Panko.
I have a brief report, Mayor Panko.
Okay, so Steve, you've got a trivia.
Yes, I've got one. Hopefully it hasn't been already done, but I've got one.
If it has been, we probably forgot about the answer anyway, so we were like, okay. Okay, I'll get the reports in a moment. I've got a number of proclamations, so if anybody needs a extended bathroom break after we start, that would be the time to do it, because I'll be tied up for a moment with getting caught up with our proclamations. Okay. Okay, I think we are ready to roll.
Oh, we've lost Councillor McKenna.
Oh, let's wait a moment, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe Herbie say bathroom break earlier.
Yeah, Mayor, I'll also have a very brief report as well.
Oh, there he is. There he was. Oh, there he is again. Okay. Okay, Carrie, you want to bring me in?
Certainly in 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to this regular meeting of Smith Falls Town Council for Monday, April 3rd. I will open the meeting with our land acknowledgement. On April 3rd, 2023, we acknowledge that the sacred land, excuse me, in which Smith Falls is now located, has been a site of human activity for over 10,000 years and is rich in Indigenous history. This land is the ancestral and unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation. We're grateful to the Algonquin ancestors who cared for the land and water in order that we might meet here today. We're also grateful to the Algonquin people for their contribution in the making of the Rideau Canal, which runs through Smith Falls. We're mindful of broken covenants and the need to reconcile with all our relations. Together, may we care for this land and each other, drawing on the strength of our mutual history of nation building through peace and friendship, and being mindful of generations to come. I have a number of proclamations to make this evening. First, Be a Donor Month. Whereas Be a Donor Month supports organ and tissue donor registration, whereas almost 1,600 people in Ontario are on the wait list, and every 3 days, someone dies waiting for a life-saving organ transplant. Whereas research shows the majority of Ontarians support organ and tissue donation, yet just 35% of eligible Ontarians have registered their consent to donate. Whereas families almost always consent to donation when there's evidence a loved one registered their decision to donate, but in the absence of a registered donation decision, families consent only half of the time. Whereas everyone is a potential organ and tissue donor, regardless of age, medical condition, or sexual orientation, one organ donor can save up to 8 lives and enhance the lives of up to 75 more through the gift of tissue. Whereas on April 7th, 2018, a young Canadian named Logan Boulet became an organ donor in the aftermath of the tragic Humboldt Bronco bus crash and saved the lives of 6 others. And whereas the Canadian Transplant Association and the family of Logan Boulet will carry on Logan's legacy by recognizing April 7th as Green Shirt Day to raise awareness of the need for registered organ and tissue donors so that access to life-saving and life-transforming transplants can be improved. Now, therefore, I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the Town of Smith Falls, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Be a Donor Month and encourage all citizens to learn more about organ and tissue donation and transplantation. And further, that April 7th has been proclaimed as Green Shirt Day to inspire organ donor registration in the Town of Smith Falls, and that residents are asked to consider pledging their support to Be a Donor Month by registering as a donor at beadonor.ca, again, beadonor.ca, and to participate in Green Shirt Day to raise awareness of organ donation. Second proclamation is Earth Day. Whereas Earth Day Canada works with many partners to address environmental challenges through developing programs in collaboration with communities, organizations, and citizens. Whereas with urban areas set to become home to 2/3 of the world population by 2050, and as climate change is being observed and experienced, municipalities find themselves at the front line of the battle against climate change. Whereas under the theme of Remedy Together, Earth Day hopes to raise awareness among Canadians about eco-anxiety and the need to take action together as a cure for both ourselves and to help care for the planet. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the Town of Smith Falls, hereby declare April 22nd as Earth Day in the Town of Smith Falls, and urge all citizens of the Town of Smith Falls to participate in activities and initiatives which support environmental awareness and stewardship. The third proclamation is Pitch In Smith Falls weeks, April 15th to April 29th, 2023. Whereas hundreds of thousands of Canadians show their concern for the environment and their communities each year by participating in Pitch In Canada, projects to clean up and rejuvenate local neighborhoods. Whereas Pitch In Canada, a national organization comprised of eco-action and community volunteers, believes that maintaining a quality environment is everyone's responsibility. Whereas Pitch In Canada encourages voluntary action to keep communities clean and beautiful, restore and maintain a healthy environment, and instigate civic pride. And whereas the Rideau Environmental Action League continues to provide excellent leadership and coordination of local environmental initiatives. Whereas the Rideau Environmental Action League is once again organizing a community-wide litter cleanup of our town. Now, therefore, I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the Town of Smith Falls, declare the weeks of April 15th to April 29th, 2022 as Pitch In Smith Falls weeks, and invite all citizens to participate in pitch-in activities in Smith Falls. And further, that all residents are encouraged to participate in the shoreline cleanup on Saturday, April 29th, 2023. The fourth proclamation is International Day of Pink. Whereas the International Day of Pink is set up as an international day against bullying, discrimination, homophobia, transphobia, transmisogyny in cities and towns all across the world. Whereas on this day, everyone is invited to celebrate diversity by wearing a pink shirt and by organizing activities in their workplaces, schools, and communities in support of the day. Therefore, be resolved that I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the Town of Smith Falls, do hereby proclaim April 12th, 2023 as International Day of Pink, and encourage all citizens to wear pink, spark some conversations, and inspire acceptance in the Town of Smith Falls. And the final proclamation is World Autism Awareness Month, April 2023. Whereas autism spectrum disorder, ASD, is a neurodevelopmental disorder that affects more than 100,000 Ontarians. Whereas autism spectrum disorder affects a person's social relationships, communication, interests, and behaviors. Whereas early intervention for young children on the autism spectrum may help them develop communication, social, and other skills, resulting in more meaningful participation in their communities. Whereas children, youth, and adults on the autism spectrum and their families can benefit from community supports and inclusive practices. And with this assistance, an increasing number of individuals on the autism spectrum are able to live and work independently. Whereas Autism Ontario is dedicated to increasing public awareness about autism and the day-to-day issues faced by individuals with autism, their families, and the professionals with whom they interact. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Sean Panko, Mayor of the Town of Smith Falls, do hereby proclaim the month of April 2023 as Autism Awareness Month in the Town of Smith Falls. And you will notice, not tonight, but probably tomorrow night or the night after, the water tower will change color to recognize Autism Awareness Month. And that's it for my announcements and proclamations. I'll ask for disclosure of monetary interest. Yes, Councillor Robinson.
On 7.2, since I declared a conflict at the committee of the whole meeting last week, I'll be declaring a conflict of interest on this item, as my daughter-in-law is the Deputy Chief of Police.
So duly noted. Thank you. We have no delegations. We have adoption of minutes with Councillor Brennan, please.
Thank you. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Miller, that the minutes of the March 20th, 2023 council meeting be approved as circulated.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan and seconded by Councillor Miller that the minutes of the March 20th, 2023 council meeting be approved as circulated. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Reports. Councillor McKenna, I think you had a report this evening.
Just one, Your Worship. As you know, Smith Falls partners with Lanark County to develop and implement a community safety plan. The committee had their first meeting recently, and we've elected two co-chairs, wonderful volunteers, Ellie Holiday and Deputy Chief Jody Ampey from Smith Falls will chair the committee as we've just wrapped up a 4-year plan, and we're about to embark on the creation of a new 4-year community safety plan for Smith Falls and Lanark County. This is, it was a good idea when we did it the first time, and now it's mandatory by the province that municipalities participate in this. So I'll keep the council abreast as to the progress on that report. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. On March 22nd or 27th, I attended the annual general meeting at the Railway Museum of Eastern Ontario. I know I've said that previously, but they finally got caught up since the pandemic on their annual general meeting. So next one won't be till March. There's nothing really new to report, but there was a couple of points of interest that I thought I'd bring forward. The Railway Museum, like it's got room to grow, and the gem of the museum is the station itself. And it came up at the meeting that although it's not leaking yet, they're going to have to replace the roof, and I was blown away by the cost of replacing that roof. It's going to cost them between $180,000 and $200,000 to replace that. And then it was asked a little later if the mayors of this area or Eastern Ontario meet to discuss common problems and concerns. And when they were told yes, it was suggested that maybe a meeting could be arranged for that group of mayors in the dining car, which could further promote the museum to other communities in Eastern Ontario. So I'm just bringing that forward for your information, basically. And that's it.
Thank you. For the reports, I'll mention a few myself. Going back to the dates. On March 21st, I was fortunate to be a guest of the Irish ambassador to Canada at his home in Ottawa to build upon the connection the town of Smith Falls has made with County Wicklow, Ireland. A number of years ago, we formed a twinning. I know, looking at members of the council here, there's a number of us who have Irish heritage that we're very proud to celebrate and honor. But there's a very strong renewed interest in coming out of the pandemic, of course, refreshing that agreement with Ireland and further recognizing our Irish heritage. And hopefully the plan is to bring something together this summer. So Kevin and Eleanor Lee, who were instrumental in creating this twinning and bring it to our awareness in the first place, did a 2-week tour on a book that they had recently, Kevin had recently written with a Canadian man, Tom Jenkins, on I guess the journey of Irish families leaving the potato famine in County Wicklow to land in the Smith Falls and across Ontario. So a bit of a book tour, but very, very inspiring night as we discuss our Irish heritage and the opportunity to advance that interest commonly across the Atlantic. Attended the career fair. I think other members of council were there on the 22nd at Settlers Ridge Center, and what a fabulous day, and kudos to staff, to OnTrack, to all the participants. And I think, as economic development manager Crowder mentioned last week, I think about 400 people who came out and attended, and I'm sure many of them left with new job opportunities. And additionally, on the 23rd, we had our regular monthly police service board meeting. The main takeaway there really is a big discussion on next generation 911, and as was discussed at previous committee of the whole meeting. The same action occurred with PSB in forming the agreement with the Owen Sound Police Service to have them manage that IT service for the town and to enable us to take advantage of the provincial funding to move ahead with next generation 911. The same day, Councillor Robinson was able to join me at Town Hall. We had a number of students, grade 6 students from Duncan J. Schooler, who came to Town Hall to share the work they had done and create in recognition and honoring Black History Month. And it was a fabulous morning, some great love enthusiasm with the young students, and truly impressed. They had been, it was a board which motivated this action, along with actually our community service officer, Sean Keoghan, and I guess give the students the autonomy to say, how are you going to recognize Black History Month? And I guess as bright as these kids are, they come up with multimedia presentations, video presentations on numerous members of the Black community, created significance over a variety of time, a long period of time, both in Canadian and American. And they've put these videos all onto a website. They've got posters which will be distributed throughout town. A QR code on there. You can go and scan the QR code and view the work of these students. And it's truly inspiring when we have the students become the teachers and try and help inform and educate our community on some of the significant people in the history of the Black population in North America. And I believe that's it for my reports. Moving on, we have a number of bylaws. Is there no reports from anybody else? Okay, so number of bylaws, starting with Councillor McKenna, please.
So moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Robinson, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 9973-2018, being a bylaw to adopt a code of conduct for members of council and local boards, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor McKenna and seconded by Councillor Robinson, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 9973-2018, being a bylaw to adopt a code of conduct for members of council and local boards, be received, read a first time, and taken as read a second time. All in favor? It's carried. Councillor McKenna, any further discussion?
Just that this was first adopted in 2018, as it mentioned. They're standard across Ontario as per the Municipal Act. Smiths Falls, along with all the municipalities in Lanark County, share a common code of conduct. And this was a routine update to that code of conduct, clearing up, improving some of the language, and in adding in a couple of additions that the province wanted to see in it. It's a guide for municipal councils across Ontario. And I'm proud of the work of Smiths Falls Council, current council and past council, and their efforts to adhere to the code.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have a third reading, please?
Again, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Robinson, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 9973-2018, being a bylaw to adopt a code of conduct for members of council and local boards, be now read a third time, finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10438-2023.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor McKenna and seconded by Councillor Robinson that a bylaw to amend bylaw 9973-2018, being a bylaw to adopt a code of conduct for members of council and local boards, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10438-2023. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And Councillor McGuire, you have the next bylaw. Oh, Councillor McGuire, we can't hear you. For some reason, you're not showing mute, but there's no audio. No, still nothing there.
I'd be happy to move it if we can't get going.
Sure, I'll look to the clerk. That's fine, I assume.
Yes, that's fine, Mayor Panko. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Brandon, please proceed.
Okay, and my seconder is
Councillor Quinn.
Councillor Quinn. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement with His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Solicitor General regarding court security prisoner transportation program, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Brandon and seconded by Councillor Quinn that a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement with His Majesty the King and Right of Ontario, as represented by the Solicitor General regarding the court security and prisoner transportation program, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Brennan?
Okay, so I'll go by memory here, but I think this is pretty simple. It's a payment that we make, and it's a regular payment for transportation of prisoners. And this authorizes the mayor and the CEO to sign off on this payment, which is, I understand, is a couple of $1,000s, and it's something we have to do anyway. So rather than bring it to council, go ahead and do it.
Yeah,
You can add to that.
sure. Yeah. So it's actually a grant we received from the province.
Okay.
I think we're down $1,500 for 2023 for prisoner transport. But to your point, yes, it's the objective is to not have to bring this back to council every year because it's a very minor amount and routine.
Okay. I'm told it's $1,940.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Okay, no, maybe a third reading, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Quinn, that a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement with His Majesty the King, Right of Ontario, as represented by the Solicitor General regarding the court security and prisoner transportation program, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10439-2023.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Brennan and seconded by Councillor Quinn that a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement with His Majesty the King in Right of Ontario, as represented by the Solicitor General regarding the court security and prisoner transportation program, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10439-2023. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And Councillor Brennan, you're right back.
All right, back. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Miller, that a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement with Owen Sound Police Services for the provision of hosting Next Generation 911 for a 5-year term be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan and seconded by Councillor Miller, that a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement with the Owen Sound Police Service for the provision of hosting Next Generation 911 for a 5-year term be received, read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Brennan?
Yes, we just discussed this in our previous committee of the whole meeting. And congratulations to Chief Cheersborough and Chief McGilverly for negotiating this in short order. We received $560,000 grant on March 3rd, needed to be signed, sealed by the end of the month, and they did it. And that's going to provide enhanced 911 services for our community. So congratulations.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have a third reading, please?
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Miller, that a bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement with Owen Sound Police Services for the provision of hosting Next Generation 911 for a 5-year term be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10440-2023.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Brennan and seconded by Councillor Miller. The bylaw to authorize execution of an agreement with the Owen Sound Police Services for the provision of hosting Next Generation 911 for a 5-year term be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10440-2023. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. And Councillor Miller, you're up next.
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Quinn, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 10369-2022, being a bylaw to enter into an exclusivity agreement with Semur Group of Companies to negotiate terms related to the redevelopment of the former water treatment plant located at 25 Old Mill Road, Smiths Falls, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Miller and seconded by Councillor Quinn that a bylaw to amend bylaw 10369-2022, being a bylaw to enter into an exclusivity agreement with the Semur Group of Companies to negotiate terms related to the redevelopment of the former water treatment plant located at 25 Old Mill Road, Smiths Falls, be received and read a first time and taken as read a second time. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Miller.
Thank you. We're really looking forward to working with this proponent, and we've extended our exclusivity agreement with them to allow more time for planning.
Thank you. Any further discussion? May I have a third reading, please?
Thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Quinn, that a bylaw to amend bylaw 10369-2022 being a bylaw to enter into an exclusivity agreement with Semur Group of Companies to negotiate terms related to the redevelopment of the former water treatment plant located at 25 Old Mill Road, Smiths Falls, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and number 10441-2023.
Thank you. It is moved by Councillor Miller and seconded by Councillor Quinn. The bylaw to amend bylaw 10369-2022, being a bylaw to enter into an exclusivity agreement with Semur Group of Companies to negotiate terms related to the redevelopment of the former water treatment plant located at 25 Old Mill Road, Smiths Falls, be now read a third time and finally passed, signed, sealed, and numbered 10441-2023. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. That's it for our bylaws. We have a few motions. Our first is back with Councillor Miller.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Robinson, that Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls approve the location of a new pedestrian bridge in the current location of the existing Confederation Drive River crossing. And further, that Council directs staff to advance the Confederation Drive River crossing project to the detailed design phase for a pedestrian bridge application as presented in Committee of the Whole Report 2023-045.
Thank you. Discussion, Councillor Miller.
I'd just like to thank staff. They worked with Parks Canada to look at 2 other potential pedestrian crossings there, but neither of them turned out to be suitable. So we're looking forward to seeing design options for the new bridge in the coming few weeks or months.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Moved by Councillor Miller, seconded by Councillor Robinson. The Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smiths Falls approved the location of a new pedestrian bridge in the current location of the existing Confederation Drive River crossing. And further, the council directs staff to advance the Confederation Drive River crossing project to the detailed design phase for a pedestrian bridge application as presented in Committee of the Whole Report 2023-045. All in favor? Thank you. That is carried. And item 8.2, our final piece of formal business, Councillor Robinson.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn. Whereas the town of Smith Falls has faced double-digit increases to insurance premiums over the past number of years, and whereas the upward trend is not financially sustainable, and whereas the cost of insurance is having a significant impact on our municipal budget, now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls fully supports the municipality of Chatham-Kent as they call for action to reduce insurance costs. And further, that the clerk to provide council with results and or recommendations of the municipality of Chatham-Kent's efforts in this regard.
Thank you. And discussion, Councillor Robinson?
We received a correspondence from the municipality of Chatham-Kent. They had been directed to engage with other municipalities and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and any other relevant municipal associations to determine what tools may be available to reduce insurance costs, whether, including cooperative purchasing of insurance, creation of a municipal reciprocal insurance provider, or legislative changes to address insurance costs because they're rising everywhere and they're not sustainable.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Is moved by Councillor Robinson and seconded by Councillor Quinn. Whereas the town of Smith Falls has faced double-digit increases to insurance premiums over the past number of years, and whereas the upward trend is not financially sustainable, whereas the cost of insurance is having a significant impact on our municipal budget. Now therefore be resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Smith Falls fully supports the municipality of Chatham-Kent as they call for action to reduce insurance costs, and further that the clerk to provide council with results and or recommendations of the municipality of Chatham-Kent's efforts in this regard. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Inquiries or announcements? Councillor Miller first.
Thank you. The Smith Falls and District Art Council has 3 upcoming events, and I just wanted to give them a plug. They've got an online auction happening now on their Facebook page, a Mother's Day market for May 13th at Hanley Hall, and then a Decades Dance happening on June 17th at the Legion. And these events help fund their good work. So please check out their Facebook page for more information.
Thank you. Councillor Quinn.
Thank you. You have already read a proclamation, but I will further that a little bit with the Real Deal and how they are pitch-in week. And this is very, very important. We like to see all kinds of people out there. You don't have to do a big area, just help us pitch in, clean up what's blown around or gathered during the winter time and get our town looking lovely again. And pitch-in week is from April the 15th to the 29th. One other thing that I have to announce, it just came to my attention today, is that Grattan Lanes, our bowling facility here in Smith Falls, are celebrating their 60th year in business. That is quite an accomplishment. So if you're out and about, stop in and say hi and congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councillor Robinson, do you have a trivia for us?
I do. Hopefully it hasn't been done. And there might only be a few people who are going to be able to answer this anyway. In 1963 and 1964, if you bought a Beatles record anywhere in North America, it came from the RCA Victor plant in Smith Falls. My question is in 2 parts. What was the name of the first Beatles single that was pressed in Smith Falls? And within the 2-year period between 1963 and 64, how many Beatles records were pressed here at the RCA plant?
Is it Love Me Do?
Yes.
No. No.
So then and what were the years for the pressings?
1963 and 1964.
So I'm guessing 156,520.
Well, I couldn't get the exact figure, but it's over 1 million. And you hadn't heard that before.
Very good.
I'm
Well
surprised.
done. You stumped us. Well, Councilor Brennan he was pretty close, but anyway. Okay, motion for adjournment, back to you, Councilor Robinson.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Quinn, that this council adjourn its proceedings at 7:02 PM and stand so adjourned until the next duly called meeting of council.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Robinson and seconded by Councilor Quinn. This council adjourns proceedings at 7:02 PM and stands so adjourned to the next duly called meeting of council. All in favor? We are adjourned.
Night, everyone.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good night,
Good
everyone.
night. Good night.